Ryu asked Xi Jinping about Pastor Ezra Jin. Please also help Pastor Jeon Kwang-hoon in Korea, America's blood ally, and please contact Kim Sun-ji and Pastor Jeon to arrange a meeting. Dear President Trump, on May 13, 2026, I read the most inspiring news in Christian Today. You, President Trump, declared that you would personally raise the issue of Pastor Ezra Jin with President Xi Jinping during your state visit to Beijing. You said the words that no American president has said before: someone has to ask them. Joe Biden never once asked. Those words brought tears to my eyes. Finally, a president who speaks up for persecuted Christians. Finally, a leader who is not afraid to confront the powerful on behalf of the powerless. You also mentioned Jimmy Lai, the Hong Kong pro-democracy media entrepreneur serving a life sentence. You understand that religious persecution and political persecution are connected. President Trump, I learned that you personally contacted Grace Jin Drexel, Pastor Ezra Jin's daughter in America, just 2 days before your announcement. She said on Fox News Sunday, "We heard from the president himself 2 days ago. This has been an enormous source of joy and hope for our family." You did not just make a political statement. You reached out to the family directly. You gave them hope. You showed them that the President of the United States personally cares about their father's suffering. President Trump, I am writing to you today because there is another pastor who desperately needs your help. His name is Jeon Kwang-hoon. He is 69 years old. He served twice as president of the Christian Council of Korea, representing 12 million Christians and over 60,000 churches. On October 3, 2019, he led more than 3 million people in prayer at Kwang-hoon Square in Seoul, a world record for a peaceful demonstration. He has met with 21 U.S. senators to advocate for the U.S.-ROK alliance. He translated your autobiography into Korean and distributed it to 3 million Korean Americans when you first ran for president in 2016. And on January 13, 2026, he was arrested by the current leftist government of Korea and spent 85 days in detention despite being 69 years old with multiple serious medical conditions. President Trump, you asked Xi Jinping about Pastor Ezra Jin in China. I humbly ask, will you also ask about Pastor Jeon Kwang-hoon in Korea, America's blood ally, where 36,574 American soldiers gave their lives during the Korean War? Pastor Jeon has recorded a video message directly addressing you and Pastor Paula White. In that video, recorded immediately after his release from detention on April 7, 2026, he speaks directly to you. He thanks you for your leadership. He warns about the current Korean government's pro-China policies. He mentions the 36,574 American soldiers who died to defend Korea. And he makes a specific request: he wants to come to America for 2 weeks to meet Pastor Paula White and then meet you, President Trump. President Trump, I am Kim Sun-ji, a Methodist lay leader at Daejeon Jail Methodist Church in South Korea. I operate a small YouTube channel called Sun Patriot TV. I have been conducting an international letter-writing campaign on behalf of Pastor Jeon, sending letters to American political and religious leaders. I have sent letters to Pastor Paula White, Senator Lindsey Graham, Senator Ted Cruz, Senator Tom Cotton, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, and many others. This letter to you is the 32nd letter in my campaign. I send each letter via EMS International Mail, paying approximately $22,116 USD per letter from donations by faithful viewers. I have not received a response from any American leader yet, but I continue to write because I believe in this cause, and I believe that God will open a door. President Trump, my specific request is this: just as you personally contacted Grace Jin Drexel, Pastor Ezra Jin's daughter, please personally contact me, Kim Sun-ji, and Pastor Jeon Kwang-hoon. Please let us know that you have heard our cry. Please give us the same hope you gave to Grace's family. And please allow Pastor Jeon and me to come to America to meet you. Pastor Jeon is currently on trial, but he plans to apply to the Korean court for permission to travel to America for 2 weeks. If you extend an invitation, if you let us know that you want to meet us, it would strengthen his application and give us hope that this meeting can happen. President Trump, in the following pages of this letter, I will provide you with detailed information about Pastor Jeon Kwang-hoon, his ministry, his persecution, his health conditions, his direct video appeal to you, and the parallels between his case and the case of Pastor Ezra Jin. I will explain why Korea, America's blood ally, needs your attention just as much as China does. And I will make a clear, specific request for action. 2 pastors, 2 countries, 1 fight. Ezra Jin and Jeon Kwang-hoon. President Trump, let me tell you about these 2 pastors, whose stories are remarkably similar, and whose fates may both depend on your willingness to speak up for the persecuted. Pastor Ezra Jin Mingri Kim Myung-il is 56 years old. He is of Korean-Chinese descent. He studied at Fuller Theological Seminary in America. He converted to Christianity after the 1989 Tiananmen Square protests. After witnessing the brutal crackdown on those who dared to demand freedom from communist oppression. In 2007, he founded Zion Church in Beijing. His congregation grew to 1,500 members, the largest house church in Beijing. In 2018, Chinese authorities raided and forcibly shut down his church. He moved to online worship, where up to 10,000 believers joined his services. In October 2025, he was arrested at his home in Beihai, Guangxi Province. Approximately 30 Zion Church leaders and members were arrested or disappeared at the same time in Beijing, Shanghai, and Shenzhen. In March 2026, his lawyer Zhang Kai had his law license revoked by Chinese authorities as punishment for defending Pastor Jin. Pastor Jeon Kwang-hoon is 69 years old. He was born on May 8, 1956 in Uiseong County, North Gyeongsang Province, South Korea. He founded Sarong Jail Church in Seoul in 1983. Over 40 years of continuous ministry. He served twice as president of the Christian Council of Korea, CCK Hangashong, representing approximately 12 million Korean Christians and over 60,000 churches across the nation. He is not an ordinary pastor. On October 3, 2019, Korea's National Foundation Day, he led more than 3 million people to gather at Gwangwamun Square in Seoul for a massive prayer rally. This was documented as a world record for a peaceful demonstration. He has led the Gwangwamun prayer movement for over 20 years, consistently fighting to preserve Korean democracy, strengthen the US-ROK alliance, and prevent Korea from sliding toward China and North Korea. In January 2026, Pastor Jeon was arrested by the current Korean government on charges related to a courthouse incident. He spent 85 days in detention despite being 69 years old with multiple serious medical conditions including OPLL requiring 3 cervical spine surgeries, diabetes with complete bladder dysfunction, and a history of cardiac issues requiring a stent procedure. He was released on bail on April 7, 2026, after the judge noted serious problems with the prosecution's indictment. His 3rd trial hearing is scheduled for May 22, 2026, just 1 week after this letter reaches you. The parallels why these 2 cases are connected. President Trump, do you see the parallels between Pastor Ezra Jin and Pastor Jeon Kwang-hoon? Both are Christian leaders who built large communities of believers. Both spoke out against governments they saw as threatening freedom and faith. Both were arrested by those governments. Both need someone powerful to speak up for them. You have already spoken up for Pastor Ezra Jin. You were asking Xi Jinping about him during your Beijing state visit. The question is, will you also speak up for Pastor Jeon Kwang-hoon in Korea? Consider the similarities. Both pastors led large Christian communities. Ezra Jin had 1,500 members offline and 10,000 online. Jeon Kwang-hoon represents 12 million through CCK and led 3 million in prayer at Gwangwamun. Both pastors spoke out against government policies they viewed as threatening to freedom and faith. Both pastors were arrested and detained. Ezra Jin in October 2025, Jeon Kwang-hoon in January 2026. Both pastors faced pressure on their legal defense. Ezra Jin's lawyer had his license revoked. Jeon Kwang-hoon's case has serious problems, per the judge. Both pastors have family members or supporters pleading for American help. Grace Jin Drexel on Fox News. Kim Sun-gi through international letters. But consider one critical difference. Pastor Ezra Jin is in China, a communist country, America's strategic competitor, a nation that openly oppresses religious believers. Pastor Jeon Kwang-hoon is in Korea, a democracy, America's treaty ally, a nation where 36,574 American soldiers gave their lives to defend freedom. If you can ask Xi Jinping about a pastor in communist China, surely you can ask about a pastor in democratic Korea, America's blood ally. In fact, speaking up for Pastor Jeon should be easier, because Korea claims to be a democracy that respects religious freedom. Reminding Korea of its democratic obligations is not confrontation, it is friendship. Pastor Jeon's direct video appeal to you, President Trump. President Trump, on April 7, 2026, Pastor Jeon Kwang-hoon was released on bail after 85 days of unjust imprisonment. He is 69 years old with serious medical conditions. Despite his suffering, shortly after his release, he recorded a video message directly addressing you and Pastor Paula White. President Trump, these are his exact words, translated from Korean. Respected President Trump, and Pastor Paula White, who is working alongside you. You must be working so hard directing the whole world. I especially congratulate you on the progress in the conflict with Iran. If not America, there is not a single country in the world that can lead the nations. And yet, our current president Lee Jae-myung says he will take back wartime operational control. Says he will withdraw U.S. forces from Korea, and says he will support Iran with funds. You probably know through the CIA and FBI that President Lee Jae-myung is completely a leftist. He is pro-China. Through the Korean War, American soldiers, 36,574 of them, gave their lives. That is why the Republic of Korea and America are bound by blood, and we cannot be separated. Respected President Trump, let me tell you how much I love President Trump. When you first ran for president, I translated your autobiography into Korean and distributed it to all 3 million Korean Americans in the United States. I am a person of prayer. Just like President Trump, and I served twice as the president of the Christian Council of Korea. I am not an ordinary pastor. To protect the Republic of Korea, on October 3, 2019, more than 3 million people gathered at Gwangwamun Square. This is a world record. Hong Kong's umbrella protests lasted only 3 months and failed to achieve results. Eventually, Hong Kong was absorbed into China. I have been leading the Gwangwamun movement for over 20 years to protect the Republic of Korea. I personally met with 21 U.S. senators because Korea must not go toward a federal reunification system. Pastor Jeon's video appeal continued his request to meet you. Respected Pastor Paula White, I am currently on trial, so I cannot go to America. I plan to apply to the court for permission to go to America for 2 weeks. And I want to meet our Pastor Paula White first, and then I earnestly ask that you help arrange a meeting with President Trump. Our theme is free unification. We must never have a federal-style unification. President Trump, Pastor Paula White, thank you very much. Thank you. President Trump, Pastor Jeon's message to you contains several key points that I want to highlight. 1. The Blood Alliance. Pastor Jeon emphasizes that 36,574 American soldiers gave their lives in the Korean War. This sacrifice created a blood bond between America and Korea that cannot be separated. He believes deeply in the U.S.-ROK alliance and has spent his life defending it. 2. His love for you. Pastor Jeon translated your autobiography into Korean in 2016 and distributed it to 3 million Korean Americans. He supported you from the very beginning of your political journey. He says he is a person of prayer, just like President Trump. 3. The Hong Kong warning. Pastor Jeon compares his 20-year Kwang-hoon movement to Hong Kong's umbrella protests. Hong Kong's protests lasted only 3 months and failed. Hong Kong was absorbed into China. Pastor Jeon has fought for 20 years to prevent Korea from suffering the same fate. 4. Free unification. Pastor Jeon's core message is free unification, opposing any federal-style reunification with North Korea that would effectively hand Korea to communist control. This is why he has met with 21 U.S. senators. 5. His request. Pastor Jeon wants to apply to the Korean court for permission to visit America for 2 weeks. He wants to meet Pastor Paula White first, and then meet you. He is reaching out for help because he believes you are the only leader who can make a difference. Grace Jin Drexel and Kim Sun-gi, 2 voices crying out to you. President Trump. Grace Jin Drexel appeared on Fox News Sunday to plead for her father, Pastor Ezra Jin. She told the American people, "We heard from the president himself 2 days ago. This has been an enormous source of joy and hope for our family. You personally reached out to her. You gave her hope. You showed her that the President of the United States cares about persecuted Christians. This is exactly what makes you different from every other president. You do not just make statements. You take action. You reach out personally. You give hope." President Trump. My name is Kim Sun-gi. I am 51 years old. I am a Methodist lay leader Gwanza at Daejeon Jail Methodist Church in South Korea. I also serve as auditor for my apartment complex community and hold a leadership role at my local church, including Sunday school teaching. I operate a small YouTube channel called Sun Patriot TV, Sun Ajig TV, producing conservative, patriotic, and Christian commentary content primarily for viewers in their 60s to 80s. My channel has grown from approximately 4,000 to nearly 10,000 subscribers, but Google has suspended my monetization, claiming my original AI-narrated content is reused content. I have no income from my channel. Everything I do is volunteer work, supported by small donations from faithful viewers. I have been conducting an international letter-writing campaign on behalf of Pastor Jeon Kwang-hoon. I have now sent over 31 letters to American political and religious leaders. This letter to you is the 32nd. I send each letter via EMS International Mail, paying approximately $22,116 USD per letter. The total cost of my campaign so far has been covered by donations from supporters, faithful Christians who believe in this cause. The donations I have received total approximately $755,550 USD. Every letter costs money. Every letter takes time. And so far, I have not received a single response from any American leader. But I continue to write because I believe. Grace Jin Drexel pleads for her father from America through Fox News. I pled for Pastor Jeon Kwang-hoon from Korea through EMS letters. Grace received a call from you, the President of the United States. I have received nothing, but I do not give up. I continue to write because Pastor Jeon continues to fight. I continue to write because I believe that somewhere in America, someone will hear our cry. And today, I am writing directly to you, President Trump, because you have shown through your actions with Pastor Ezra Jin that you are willing to help. Your record. The President WHO fights for the persecuted. President Trump, you have proven time and again that you are willing to fight for persecuted Christians and democracy activists around the world. Your record speaks for itself, and it gives us hope. Pastor Andrew Brunson, Turkey, 2018. When Pastor Andrew Brunson, an American citizen, was imprisoned in Turkey on false charges, you did not stay silent. You imposed sanctions on Turkey. You publicly demanded his release. You made it a personal priority. You tweeted about him. You pressured Turkish President Erdogan. And Pastor Brunson came home. He was released after 2 years of imprisonment because the President of the United States decided that his freedom mattered. This showed the world that President Trump fights for persecuted Christians. Pastor Ezra Jin, China, 2026. Now, in May 2026, you are asking Xi Jinping directly about Pastor Ezra Jin during your state visit to Beijing. You said publicly, someone has to ask them. Joe Biden never once asked. You personally reached out to Pastor Jin's daughter Grace, giving her family hope. You are proving once again that you stand with persecuted Christians, even when it means confronting the leader of China face to face. Jimmy Lai, Hong Kong. You mentioned Jimmy Lai, the pro-democracy media entrepreneur, now serving a life sentence in Hong Kong, alongside Pastor Ezra Jin when speaking to reporters on May 11. You understand that religious freedom and political freedom are connected. Those who speak out for democracy and those who preach the gospel face the same enemies: authoritarian governments that fear free speech and free worship. Uyghur Muslims, China, 2020. You signed the Uyghur Human Rights Policy Act in 2020, imposing sanctions on Chinese officials responsible for the persecution of over 1 million Uyghur Muslims in Xinjiang detention camps. You showed that America stands against religious persecution regardless of the faith involved, whether Christian, Muslim, or any other religion. President Trump, you have the record. You have the courage. You have already proven that you will fight for the persecuted. Pastor Jeon Kwang-hoon needs you to extend that same courage to Korea, America's blood ally, where 36,574 American soldiers gave their lives for freedom. If you fought for Pastor Brunson in Turkey, if you are fighting for Pastor Ezra Jin in China, please also fight for Pastor Jeon Kwang-hoon in Korea. 36,574. The blood that binds America and Korea forever. President Trump, Pastor Jeon Kwang-hoon told you directly in his video message, through the Korean War, American soldiers, 36,574 of them, gave their lives. That is why the Republic of Korea and America are bound by blood, and we cannot be separated. This number is not rhetoric. It is documented history. It is sacred sacrifice. Let me explain what this number means. The 36,574 includes 33,739 battle deaths and 2,835 non-battle deaths during the Korean War 1950 to 1953. These young American men, many of them teenagers, crossed the Pacific Ocean to defend a nation they had never seen. They fought in brutal winter conditions at Chosin Reservoir. They held the line at Pusan Perimeter. They landed at Incheon. They fought and died for the principle that freedom must be defended wherever it is threatened. Their sacrifice created a blood bond between America and Korea that no political disagreement can ever erase. Today, approximately 28,500 U.S. troops remain stationed in Korea. The 12th Special Measures Agreement SMA, covering 2026 to 2030, governs cost sharing for U.S. forces in Korea. Your administration has consistently described the U.S.-ROK alliance as the linchpin of peace and security in the Indo-Pacific region. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, to whom I also sent a letter on May 15, 2026, has met multiple times with Korean Foreign Minister Cho and has consistently emphasized the critical importance of the U.S.-ROK alliance. President Trump, Pastor Jeon, has spent over 20 years of his life fighting to protect this alliance. He has warned about policies that would weaken it: premature transfer of wartime operational control, potential withdrawal of U.S. forces, diplomatic moves that bring Korea closer to China. He has met with 21 U.S. senators personally to advocate for the alliance. He led 3 million people in prayer for Korea and for the U.S.-ROK partnership, a world record demonstration. Now he faces trial for his resistance to the current government. The man who has fought to protect the alliance that you have pledged to strengthen needs your help. Will you help him? President Trump, Pastor Ezra Jin is in China. China is a communist country, America's strategic competitor. When you ask Xi Jinping about Pastor Jin, you are confronting an adversary. But Pastor Jeon Kwang-hoon is in Korea. Korea is supposed to be America's ally. Korea is supposed to be a democracy. When you ask about Pastor Jeon, you are not confronting an enemy. You are reminding a friend of its obligations. This should be easier, not harder. Please speak up for Pastor Jeon. Timeline of Pastor Jeon's persecution. The facts. President Trump, let me give you the documented facts of Pastor Jeon's case so you can see for yourself the injustice he faces. January 18, 2025. Pastor Jeon speaks at a Kwang-hoon rally. He has been speaking at such rallies for over 20 years. This is not unusual. January 19, 2025. Following the arrest of former President Yoon Suk-yeol, some supporters enter Seoul Western District Court, damage property, and clash with police. Pastor Jeon maintains he was asleep at home when this occurred and learned about it through YouTube. He claims he specifically instructed supporters not to confront police. November 18, 2025. Pastor Jeon is questioned by Seoul Metropolitan Police for approximately 3 hours. Questioning ends early due to his health conditions. January 13, 2026. Pastor Jeon is arrested. He is 69 years old with multiple serious medical conditions. He is detained at Seoul Nambu Detention Center. February 3, 2026. Pastor Jeon is formally indicted on charges including special building trespass incitement, special obstruction of official duty incitement, violation of Assembly and Demonstration Act, and general traffic obstruction. February 27, 2026. First trial hearing. Pastor Jeon denies all charges. The judge notes problems with the prosecution's indictment and requests more specificity on which statements constituted incitement. April 7, 2026. Bail granted after 85 days of detention. The judge specifically noted serious problems with the prosecution's indictment. Bail set at $100,175,000 USD with conditions including residence restriction and no contact with co-defendants. April 12, 2026. Pastor Jeon records his video appeal directly to President Trump and Pastor Paula White. April 17, 2026. Second trial hearing. Prosecution alleges potential bail condition violations. Pastor Jeon and defense deny this. Judge reiterates need for prosecution to specify incitement acts. May 22, 2026. Scheduled third trial hearing with witness examination. 2:30 p.m. Just 1 week after this letter is sent to you. The judge's own words, serious problems with the prosecution's indictment. President Trump, I want you to understand something critically important about Pastor Jeon's case. When the Korean court granted Pastor Jeon bail on April 7, 2026, the judge did not simply release him on health grounds. The judge specifically stated that there were serious problems with the prosecution's indictment. This is extraordinary. A Korean judge publicly criticized the prosecution's case against Pastor Jeon. In Korea's judicial system, such public criticism of a prosecution case is very unusual. The judge has twice, at the first trial hearing on February 27 and again at the second hearing on April 17, requested the prosecution to specify exactly which of Pastor Jeon's statements constituted criminal incitement and how those statements directly led to the courthouse incident. The prosecution has struggled to make this connection. The core legal question in Pastor Jeon's case is this: does political speech at a rally constitute criminal incitement? Pastor Jeon gave speeches at Kwang-hoon Square. He led prayers. He expressed political opinions about the government. Can that be a crime in a country that claims to be a democracy? President Trump, you understand political speech better than almost anyone. You have given thousands of rallies. You have said things that your political opponents called incitement. After January 6, 2021, you faced impeachment charges based on your speech. But in America, political speech is protected by the First Amendment. Americans have the constitutional right to speak their minds, to criticize their government, to call for political change, to express strong opinions. Pastor Jeon did exactly that in Korea. He spoke at rallies. He criticized the government. He called for resistance to policies he believed were dangerous to Korea's democracy and to the US-ROC alliance. And now he is being prosecuted for it. The fact that a Korean judge has publicly noted serious problems with the prosecution's case suggests that even within Korea's own judicial system, there are doubts about whether Pastor Jeon should be prosecuted at all for his political speech. This is not a clear-cut case of criminal wrongdoing. This is a case where a religious leader is being prosecuted for expressing political opinions. This is exactly the kind of case where American leadership, your leadership, President Trump, can make a difference. Pastor Jeon's love for President Trump. He stood with you from the beginning. President Trump, Pastor Jeon told you directly in his video message, "Let me tell you how much I love President Trump. When you first ran for president, I translated your autobiography into Korean and distributed it to all 3 million Korean Americans in the United States. This is not an exaggeration. This is a documented fact. Pastor Jeon was your supporter from the very beginning of your political journey, back in 2015-2016 when many people around the world doubted that you could win. In 2016, when the political establishment dismissed your candidacy, when the mainstream media attacked you daily, when even many Republicans refused to support you, Pastor Jeon believed in you. He took your autobiography, your story of success, of building a business empire, of overcoming obstacles, of never giving up, and he translated it into Korean. He did not do this for money. He did it because he believed in your message. He distributed it to Korean Americans across America because he wanted them to know who you were and what you stood for. He used his resources, his network, his influence to support you when you needed support most. Pastor Jeon says in his video, "I am a person of prayer." Just like President Trump, he sees a spiritual connection between himself and you. Both of you are fighters. Both of you have been attacked by the establishment. Both of you have faced false accusations and legal persecution. Both of you continue to fight despite everything thrown against you. Pastor Jeon identifies with your struggle because he is living the same struggle in Korea. He is fighting for his country, for his faith, for freedom, just as you fight for America. President Trump, Pastor Jeon supported you when you were a candidate. He supported you during your first term. He supported you when you faced impeachment. He supported you during your years out of office. He supported your 2024 campaign. And now he supports your second term. He has been loyal to you from the very beginning. Now he needs your loyalty in return. He needs the President of the United States to remember who stood with him and to stand with that person now. My specific requests to you, President Trump. President Trump, I am not asking you to intervene in Korean legal proceedings. I am not asking you to demand Pastor Jeon's release. I am making 5 specific, achievable requests that would give us hope and make a real difference. Request 1. Please investigate Pastor Jeon's situation. Please direct the State Department, CIA, or other appropriate agencies to investigate Pastor Jeon Kwang-hoon's case. Learn about him. Learn about his 20 years of fighting for the US-ROC alliance. Learn about why a Korean judge found serious problems with the prosecution's indictment. Understand what is happening to a 69-year-old pastor who translated your autobiography and led 3 million people in prayer for Korea and America. Request 2. Please raise religious freedom concerns with Korea. Just as you are raising Pastor Ezra Jin's case with Xi Jinping in China, please raise concerns about religious freedom and political speech in Korea. Korea claims to be a democracy. Remind Korea of its democratic obligations. Let the Korean government know that America is watching and that America cares about how religious leaders are treated. Request 3. Please ask Pastor Paula White to help connect U.S. Pastor Jeon specifically mentioned Pastor Paula White in his video appeal. He wants to meet her first, and then meet you. Please ask Pastor Paula White to reach out to us. She can be the bridge between Pastor Jeon and you. I have also sent letters directly to Pastor Paula White. If she contacts us, we will know that our cry has been heard. Request 4. Please meet with Pastor Jeon Kwang-hoon. Pastor Jeon wants to apply to the Korean court for permission to travel to America for 2 weeks. If you indicate that you want to meet him, if you extend an invitation, it will strengthen his application. Please allow Pastor Jeon to come to America and meet you. Let him tell you in person about his 20 years of fighting for the U.S. ROK Alliance. Request 5. Please contact Kim Sun-ji and Pastor Jeon directly. President Trump, just as you personally contacted Grace Jin Drexel, Pastor Ezra Jin's daughter. Please personally contact me, Kim Sun-ji, and Pastor Jeon Kwang-hoon. Let us know that you have heard our cry. Give us the same hope you gave to Grace's family. My contact information is at the end of this letter. I am waiting for your call. Scripture, prayer, and faith. President Trump, I know that you are a man of faith. Pastor Jeon said in his video, I am a person of prayer. Just like President Trump, I believe that our prayers are connected. I believe that God has placed you in the position of President of the United States for a purpose. And I believe that part of that purpose is to speak up for persecuted Christians around the world. The Bible says in Proverbs chapters 318-9, speak up for those who cannot speak for themselves, for the rights of all who are destitute. Speak up and judge fairly, defend the rights of the poor and needy. President Trump, Pastor Jeon cannot speak to you directly from Korea. He is on trial. He cannot travel. He cannot appear on Fox News like Grace Jin Drexel. But through this letter, through his video message, through my campaign, we are trying to speak to you. We are asking you to speak up for those who cannot speak for themselves. The Bible also says in Hebrews chapter 133, continue to remember those in prison as if you were together with them in prison. And those who are mistreated as if you yourselves were suffering. Pastor Jeon spent 85 days in detention. He is 69 years old. He has serious medical conditions. He suffered. He continues to face trial. President Trump, please remember him. Please remember that a pastor who supported you from the beginning, who translated your autobiography, who led 3 million people in prayer, is now facing persecution for his political speech. President Trump, you asked Xi Jinping about Pastor Ezra Jin in China. You said, someone has to ask them. Joe Biden never once asked. I am asking you, please also ask about Pastor Jeon Kwang-hoon in Korea. Someone has to ask. Will you be that someone? Will you be the president who speaks up not only for Christians persecuted by America's enemies, but also for Christians facing injustice in America's allied nations? Every day, I pray for you, President Trump. I pray for your health, for your safety, for your leadership. I pray that God gives you wisdom and courage. And I pray that you will hear our cry and respond. Pastor Jeon and I are waiting. We are praying. We are hoping. Please contact us. Closing, we are waiting for your response. President Trump, I have written to you from the bottom of my heart. I have shared with you the story of Pastor Jeon Kwang-hoon, a 69-year-old pastor who has spent over 40 years in ministry, who served twice as president of the Christian Council of Korea, who led 3 million people in prayer, who translated your autobiography and distributed it to Korean Americans, who has met with 21 U.S. senators, and who is now facing trial for his political speech. I have compared his case to Pastor Ezra Jin's case and shown you the parallels. I have explained why Korea, America's blood ally, deserves your attention just as much as China does. I have made 5 specific requests: 1. Investigate Pastor Jeon's situation. 2. Raise religious freedom concerns with Korea. 3. Ask Pastor Paula White to help connect us. 4. Meet with Pastor Jeon. And 5. Contact me and Pastor Jeon directly. These are not impossible requests. These are actions that the President of the United States can take. You contacted Grace Jin Drexel. You can contact us too. President Trump, Pastor Jeon's third trial hearing is scheduled for May 22, 2026, just 1 week after this letter is sent to you. Time is short. Every day that passes without a response is another day of uncertainty for Pastor Jeon and for all of us who support him. Please respond. Please let us know that you have heard us. Please give us hope. I am waiting for your call. I am waiting for your email. I am waiting for any sign that you have read this letter and that you care about Pastor Jeon Kwang-hoon's fate. Just as you gave hope to Grace Jin Drexel's family, please give hope to us. With deepest respect, earnest prayer, and unwavering hope. Kim Sun Gi Gimzongi.